What's up, guys? This is Jordan Haddock.
What's up? This is Anthony Colavito.
What's up, guys? This is Pat Senior.
What's up, everyone? This is Graham Tuck, and you're listening to the New Guys podcast presented by Ride the Wave Media. What's up, guys? Welcome to the New Guys podcast, season 2, episode 3. As always, presented by Ride the Wave Media, sponsored by Anchor. Big shout out. Big sponsor. Everybody knows. Be sure to follow us. Be sure to follow us on all kinds of socials, as Anthony always says. Not Snapchat though. Please. Big week in sports this week. We are recording on a Tuesday. This past week wrapped up the week 1 of the NFL season, and I am absolutely stoked about how it went. Cam Newton played amazing and waxed the Dolphins. We only won by 10, but I'll say we waxed them. But obviously, I think Cam Newton was one of the biggest winners of the week. So we can go into our biggest winners and losers of week 1 in the NFL. I already touched on Cam Newton. Jordan, you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Cam definitely is one of the biggest winners for me because, I mean, there's so many question marks about whether he was going to, be able to hold his own just because people hadn't seen him play in a while. And when they had seen him play, he looked pretty bad in Carolina. But straying away from the Patriots specifically, one of the biggest losers, I think, has got to be the Broncos because they had, at least not just because they have a lot, riding on the season where a lot of people are expecting a lot from Drew Lock, and, they've got Gordon, they have Lindsey. Sutton didn't play, but still, that you kind of expected them to win this game, and they had so many chances to win it, especially with Gostowski missing 3 field goals. He missed an extra point. They were in position to win at the end if they could have just slowed Tennessee down. They didn't, and Locke didn't look overly good. I mean, he looked like pretty average to me, and I think a lot of people are expecting Locke to kind of break through this year. And then another loser, I think, has got to be the Cowboys. That's probably one of the biggest upsets of the week because a lot of people, looking at how Goff performed last year, were thinking that the Cowboys were just going to come in and just, wax them and go on their, Super Bowl run, according to Graham. But they kind of got pieced up
on that train.
And the Rams, flip that. I think the Rams are one of the biggest winners. They looked very good. Goff, was able to drive down the field a couple times. He looked kind of shaky at the end in the second half, but he had that opening drive that they had. He looked back to, his Super Bowl self. And, they have enough talent on that team to make some noise. And I think if Goff can, get back to just close to his form 2 years ago, that's a team you could watch for in the playoff race, definitely in the NFC.
Yeah, I'll go. Are we just doing winners or are we doing losers too here?
Definitely losers too.
I went first for everything last week, so I'm gonna go last this week.
I'll start off with my winners.
This week.
One of my biggest winners of the week, one of my favorite stories was Gardner Minshew. Played maybe the most efficient game, one of the most efficient games ever. Obviously, he didn't pass for that many yards, but 19 for 23 touchdowns. Outplayed Phillip Rivers, who's actually probably one of, if not the biggest loser of the week, who shit his pants again.
I've been trying to tell you for months.
Yeah, Graham has been telling us he's a big Phillip Rivers hater. So Phillip Rivers sucks. Big win, Ron Rivera. Kind of like a feel-good story. Obviously he got diagnosed with cancer, but he's stuck in the game through the second half. And Washington pulled off the upset against the Eagles. Big loser, Baker Mayfield. A lot of loser QBs this week. Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford, kind of. I just feel bad for the guy, He loses to Mitch Trubisky because DeAndre Swift dropped that ball wide open in the end zone. If we want to go with the biggest loser, though, and it really makes me feel glad to say this, Tom Brady. Tom Brady is absolute loser. Absolute bum after this week. You come in with sky-high expectations. You don't even make the game close. You throw a pick 6. You throw 2 interceptions. Drew Brees doesn't even play well, and you lose by over 10 points. And then on top of that, you have Bruce Arians saying, it's Tom Brady's fault. The whole Buccaneers organization can just go off themselves because they're humongous losers this week.
Jesus.
And the Cowboys, because everybody likes to see the Cowboys lose.
Yeah, so
Except Graham.
I like coming down to people this week.
yeah, so I'm just gonna make it known that like halfway through Pat's little monologue there, my AirPod cut out completely. I couldn't hear anybody, and I was waiting for Jordan or Graham to be like, "Wait, can you guys not hear Pat? Is that only me?" But no, I was the only idiot that couldn't hear Pat. So if I go off
The
on
only
like
idiot.
losers, I am the only
You
idiot.
could have just stopped at that.
So if I get into anything that Pat said, please forgive me. I'm gonna start with my losers. The Eagles' offensive line. I don't know if he got into that, but they just got absolutely
Yeah.
they just got absolutely pummeled this week. And that Eagles team is in the NFC East, which has been for like I'd say the last decade or so the worst division in football outside of the AFC South. Sometimes it's been the AFC South, some years it's been the NFC East. But when you get pummeled by the Redskins, I'm sorry, the football team like that, I'm still getting used to it. Remember,
we just got demonetized.
yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
that Anchor
but
sponsorship is gone. Like,
damn it.
what have you done?
No, but Washington really pummeled them this week. Chase Young, Ryan Kerrigan, who's been a great force on that Washington front seven for the last few years now, extremely underrated player, and they just get absolutely pummeled. And I think this is Carson Wentz's year to make it or break it, just because he had that MVP caliber season a few years ago. I think either 2 or 3 years ago, until he got hurt, and I think that kind of went under the radar. That I think he would have won MVP if it wasn't for him getting hurt late in the season or halfway through the season. And I thought that this was his year to kind of come back and make a name for himself again. I thought he could have been a dark horse in the MVP race this year, but if they can't protect him, they're getting pummeled by Washington. God knows, God have mercy on them for when they play the Rams this Sunday, because I think that Rams defense overall is 10 times better. And the only reason that Washington won is because that defense was gassed as fuck, because they were going 3 and out on every drive. They'd get sacked, and then the defense would be back on the field. The offense's job is to obviously score points, but stay out there for a longer period of time in some situations. I'm not saying you got to stay out there for the whole 2-minute drill or whatever, because you got to score quick in some scenarios, but you want to score. You kind of want to keep the tempo like at a slower pace. You want to, unless your game plan is to just go attack like the Rams did last Sunday. They scored really quick, and it kind of showed us flashes of that 2018 team. I'm kind of going off right now. But that Eagles O-line really needs to step it up, because I think they have a pretty good defense on paper. They got guys like Fletcher Cox still. I don't know if Malcolm Jenkins is still there, but they have some really good players on that team, especially in that front seven. But the only reason Washington really scored is because that defense was just so tired and they couldn't keep up after a certain amount of time. And I'm going to give you 2 winners for this week. One winner is Russell Wilson. God, he had a great game. I think Graham had him in fantasy. He had him and Chris Carson in fantasy this past week, and he was like, oh my God, they're going off. He was texting me the whole time. And for me personally, I think this is Russell Wilson's year. I think this is the year that he finally wins MVP. Just because, we've talked about it in the past. I've been very high on Russell Wilson in the past, because I'm like, oh, if there was an MVP for the last 5 years, it would be Russell Wilson. And I'm writing an article right now for my school newspaper, Not Ride the Wave Media. So if you care about me that much, you can go over there and read that one. Not that half of you guys probably read my shit anyway, but definitely, I think I'm going into why he's going to win it this year and breaking down why he would be the MVP for the last 5 years. But he had a hell of a game. This is definitely a big year for Seattle. I think Wilson's going to win MVP. My other winner is the Arizona Cardinals, and they were the team that I did not pick last week. I lone wolf the 49ers, and they showed up. Kyler really showed why he could be it for them. Especially you got DeAndre Hopkins that takes that team to the next level. Sure, San Francisco made a few mistakes in the late. Were there a few questionable calls going Arizona's way? I definitely think so. But the Cardinals really just made a name for themselves this week. They play Washington, and that's a real test for Washington too, just because of how dominant they were against Carson Wentz. But Carson Wentz obviously isn't as mobile as a guy like Kyler Murray. So Kyler's going to be able to make some plays. I definitely want to see that game next week. So two winners are Russell Wilson and the Arizona Cardinals.
One thing I wanted to say before I move on from week 1, there's a lot of injuries this week because there's at least 5 or 6 names that I saw, big names that went down. George Kittle had a knee injury. I guess he hyperextended it. Michael Thomas went down with an ankle. Connor.
Le'Veon
Bell. Yeah, he's out for a couple weeks. Duke Johnson.
Marlon Mack's out for the year.
A lot of them were very similar injuries.
Exactly.
And Marlon Mack's out for the year too.
Yeah, and it's a lot to do with the lower body. And you've got to think that I think a lot of people were thinking maybe limited training camp would be good because it would, let them, I don't know, not have as much, not have his Graham's back. He got booted.
Let's go.
But I think a lot of people thought maybe limited training camp would take a little bit of the wear and tear off, but it's almost doing the opposite. I think players just aren't prepared enough, and that's why you're seeing so many, injuries happen so early on. So that'll be something to watch for because, like you said, Anthony, Pat said it, I think, but every single one is lower body in the leg area, and that's definitely not what you want to hear when you're talking about football players and injuries.
Is it too late for me?
Sorry, go ahead, Graham.
Is it too late for me to give my winners and losers? Is it too late?
You got it.
No, go ahead.
Okay, straight. Let's go. No, I didn't. I want to get back to Cam if you haven't touched on that eventually, but
yeah, we
just with him. Okay, so biggest winners and losers. I think the biggest loser of the week by far has to be Doug Peterson because he wasn't able to do anything with what the Eagles had to work with. They didn't have Miles Sanders, which is tough, obviously, but that receiving core is no better than it was without Jalen Reagor. Their offensive line was diminished at best, and then they got absolutely ran through by the Washington front seven. I think that Doug Peterson has to be able to make better adjustments. Obviously, he's dealing with a lot of stuff that the Eagles have to overcome, but he's a good coach. He's got a pretty talented roster. Should be able to at least beat Washington of all teams, no matter what. I think that says a lot about what he's doing in Philly. And I think the other biggest loser of the week has to be, I would say, the Titans, to be honest. I know they won their game, but I'm going to call them the loser of the week because they had, first of all, they had no Cortland Sutton to go up against, which is, that's a big blow to the Broncos. Their number one receiver, 1,000-yard kind of guy. Not having to go against him, especially with as weak as their cornerback spot is, that was something that they should have, been able to take advantage of and really, really limit Jerry Jeudy. And Jerry Jeudy didn't do too much, but he still had a pretty good game. I think that A.J. Brown didn't produce on the level that he is capable of. Derrick Henry didn't produce on the level that he's capable of. And the Broncos, their numbers looked good at the end of the game. Drew Lock had a decent game. Melvin Gordon had a decent game, but they just didn't execute when they needed to. If the Titans are going to compete in the AFC, they need to be able to do way more than squeak out a 2-point win against teams like the Broncos the way that they played last night. I think that the Titans' execution has to be far better on offense in order for them to compete like a lot of people, including myself, think they can. I had touted them as number 3 seed in the AFC, which I think is it's a little bit of a hot take, but they've got the talent to do it. I just think that their execution has to be way better. And obviously, kicking issues is just horrible. Steven Gostkowski absolutely shat the bed. And I've been trying to tell people, he did come through at the end, but you can't be relying on that kind of stuff if you're going to compete. You got to find somebody a little bit more reliable. So that's my take on and winners. I've got to agree with Pat. It's got to be Gardner Minshew. It's just got to be the dude absolutely went off. Yeah. So that's where I stand. And I know I cut you guys off talking about injuries, but I do want to get in a little bit more talking about Cam. He played really well. He didn't throw the ball a whole lot, but he didn't really need to because the running game was going very well for the Patriots on Sunday. Yeah. He had it was 75 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, and then he went 15 of 19 in the air, which is a pretty efficient afternoon.
150 some yards, right?
Yeah, it's not gaudy numbers.
Drops. A couple of those incompletions were drops. So
exactly. I know Edelman got blown up a time or two.
Yeah, he did. I think it was very different as a Pats fan to see them running the ball so much. It was the first time they've run the ball more than 65% of their snaps since 2008 or something. Which for me, I think it was very refreshing because it's frustrating at times, even when you have a great quarterback like Tom Brady, that sometimes you just kind of want to see ground and pound game, because if you get the run game going, it makes you respect the passing game a little more. And you definitely saw the impact that Cam Newton had on the offense with his ability to extend plays and make plays with his legs, something Tom Brady really could never do. He would do it a couple times in a season. Yeah, I was really impressed with how he played. He played smart. When he had to throw the ball, he threw it very well. He looked very good. I think it's a great start to the season. I know it's only the Dolphins, but if he can play like that, play safe, limit turnovers and everything, Patriots are going to have a good offense. They're going to be something, some sort of contenders almost, at least for a good AFC playoff spot.
I like
you guys. You guys pretty much hit on everything, but yeah, Pat, I agree with you. It's so refreshing to see a bit more running, and not just by Michelle and JJ Taylor,
great.
who's the new
dude was going crazy.
Yeah, he was. But just even the option play, it's just whenever you see play action with Brady and he hands it and you got the handoff to the running back, it's like it's going to the running back, But now with Newton, it's like who knows, and it's Belichick. When Belichick gets these dynamic players, it's like a perfect scenario, And I was interested to see, before week one, how well Belichick could adjust to, a completely different quarterback, probably almost polar opposites. Someone who's just a pocket passer, who can sling the ball, who's accurate and boom, 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 like by the playbook, and Newton, who's a bit more dynamic and a bit more just like go all over the place and try new shit. And man, it worked out. I mean, we didn't look stellar. Like it's Miami too, so people are kind of like overreacting. I think where it's like, oh, watch out for this Patriots offense. The defense is still elite. It's like, all right, calm down. It was Miami, so it's not like we faced the Seahawks. So we'll see how they do this week. But it was definitely good to see Newton in the Patriots colors and him playing well, because it really solidifies his role as the number one QB. Because I think if he had performed, below average or had a bad game or lost us the game, you'd have the Stidham fans coming out and saying, Newton should be gone and you should just drop him and start Stidham and blah, blah, blah. But, we just saw, obviously, like Graham mentioned, 75 rushing yards, a couple touchdowns, decent through the air. So we'll see. The test really it comes this week against the Seahawks on Sunday night.
For sure.
Yeah, so hence why I'm wearing my only Patriots running backs jersey right now, Stephen Ridley from 2013, I think.
The OG.
Yeah, this offense is just this offense is just such a breath of fresh air, and it's great to see that New England is finally starting to adapt to that new style of football that's still starting to blossom. The run pass option style that we're seeing being popularized by guys like Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes even. But he's more known for his rocket of an arm. But he can still make plays on his feet and fool defenses when it comes to the run pass option. And this is still a style of football that defensive coordinators don't really know how to game plan against. Yeah, you can get a win against it, but it's going to be really tough. You actually have to really sit there weeks prior and game plan against an offense of this style. And that's why I'm glad that Tom Brady wasn't there, because we could never tap into that potential if Brady were still here. God, I love Tom Brady with every fiber in my body, but this offense would not work with him. And with a guy like Cam Newton, I think it just threw everybody off. I feel like we should have seen it coming with the lack of running backs. Oh, no, lack of wide receivers and a big running back room and a guy like Cam Newton. We should have known this was coming, but it was a real big surprise. And down the long run, I think this can bring New England to some a really high place in the NFL right now, just because this is such a new style of football. Not that it's new, it's been around for ages, but it's starting to be revolutionized now by guys like Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. You're starting to see a lot more of it, and it's starting to dominate a lot more. And what does New England do? They've dominated the last 20 years. So it was only a matter of time that we adapted to this new style of football. And Bill Belichick, who is, I think, the greatest head coach ever, who knows what he's going to do with this offense. Sure, we don't have the guys like Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray to do it, who have like the really fast legs. But Cam Newton is still a physical guy who can run with the football, and I think he's better than them in the aspect that he's just such a big body that he can run someone over if he had to.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to say one thing. There was a play that I thought we should highlight. There was it was a blitz by the Dolphins. I think we're at midfield somewhere, and it was just like a straight up the middle. Linebacker came through. He got through the offensive line, and usually when you see that with Brady, he'll tuck and fall. Like that's how he was playing. You know, he would never take a ball and throw it to the sidelines. He would just go down. He doesn't want to risk getting drilled. And Newton just hucked that thing over to the right by receiver streaking on the sideline, and there's you're saving a loss of 5 yards. So that right there, I think is a huge difference between those two guys. Because not to say what Brady does in those situations is bad, because he saves himself from injury, and maybe one of the main reasons why he's had such a prolonged career. But you'd like to see you like seeing Cam Newton take some risks and not just go down easily. And another thing is he's getting the ball out so quickly. I think it was somewhere around like, I don't even know, 1.5, 2 seconds was his like average time of release last week. And he's not one to like get that ball out quickly. He's more of a, like Anthony said, mobile quarterback, runs around a lot. So it'll be interesting. They're kind of mixing the two worlds of like Brady's, quick release, accurate throws, slant throws, and then you're mixing Cam Newton's ability to run around and create plays for himself. So if they can keep this dynamic up with the best of both worlds, I mean, we may be able to compete with any team in the league.
Team might never lose again.
Hot take of the week.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay if we never lose a game again.
I'm very fine with that. And including hot takes, talking about hot takes, we can move into our weekly picks. Started this last week, and Jordan just absolutely thrashed the three of us. Jordan, to update everybody, Pat and Anthony both went 8 for 15 last week. I went 9 for 15, so I'm in second place. And Jordan put up 12 for 15. He only missed on the Jags win, Washington's win, and all of us missed on the Rams win. So the only one that all of his misses are excusable.
Because no one would have predicted Jacksonville or Washington. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I think that Jalen Ramsey is the biggest actor in the NFL right now, and the Cowboys should have won that game.
He gets paid more than The Rock.
Exactly. That was not OPI, and we can talk about that till the cows come home. Yeah, I see the extension, but like, oh my God, he sold that. He sold it so much.
He sold it so. I mean, it's good. But I mean,
it's such a weak call.
I think he sold it, but it's almost like in basketball when someone goes for the push off to like snap the guy's ankles, and like Smart falls or Lowry falls down, and it's like, okay, like was it like was he like flopping a bit? Like, yes, but is that technically a foul? Like, yeah. Right. So it's kind of like I think you can argue for both sides,
kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't like the ref calling those kind of like, I mean, like, yeah,
end of a game, like
yeah, exactly. Like I don't want the game to be in the ref's hands at the end of the game. Like if it was a more obvious, if Michael Gallup had gone, like just absolutely shoved Jalen Ramsey to the dirt, I get it, but like he just he extended his arm. He didn't even push off. He just extended his arm.
Because Jalen Ramsey's arms were already kind of entangled with him, so he was
trying
to free it, get it loose.
Yeah, I don't get it at all. But we can talk about.
We'll be talking about the refs a lot this season.
I don't know the exact ruling on it. I don't know if it's like you said, Graham. I don't know if it's like there has to be a shoving motion, or is it just if he extends the arm and like pushes into his chest or something? Because there's like so many semantics with the NFL, and they do it to themselves because they aren't clear on anything, whether it be offense and the catch rule, or like you said, defense and defensive pass interference. It's ridiculous. It's sad that it like you said, it has to come down to like it's always split. You always have some people saying that it's offensive pass interference. You always have people saying it's not, and it's not just divided by teams. You have like people that aren't Cowboy fans saying like, yeah, that shouldn't have been pass interference, and then you have people that aren't Cowboys fans saying, yeah, it should. So it really shouldn't be like this. They should clear it up, make sure everyone knows the ruling, and let stuff go early on, just like in every other sport. Or later on, I should say.
But Jordan, you have the chance to advance on your lead this week in our.
By all means, Jordan,
picks.
go first.
Yeah, go ahead. So
Yeah.
starting off, we got Thursday night, Cincinnati at Cleveland. One team looked last week, and one team looked really bad. So yeah, Jordan, go ahead.
What wisdom do you have first, Jordan?
It's yeah. Listen up, guys.
Great one.
It's tough. So like I like aspects of both these teams. I think Joe Mixon had a slow week, but I think he's got the talent, you know. And I think Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt is maybe one of the best backfields in the league. That duo is ridiculous. So Cleveland's the favorite. I think I'm gonna have to go with Cleveland. I think all the OBJ talk and stuff is gonna get shut up on Thursday. I don't see OBJ getting moved. I think he'll figure it out in Cleveland, and I think Nick Chubb has a night on Thursday against the soft Bengals defense. But I think it'll be close. But I'm gonna go Cleveland.
I'll go.
I agree. You go ahead.
Or you go. Whoever wants.
No, Graham should go because he's in second place.
True. Let's go with that. Let's go
good
with that
point.
order.
That's true. I like that. All right. So I'm gonna have to disagree with you, Jordan. I think that this is the scene where Joe Burrow makes a name for himself on the NFL stage. I think that Cleveland's defense is not. I mean, like their front seven is pretty solid, and their secondary has potential. But Joe Burrow and those Bengals wide receivers, I mean, we talked about it last week. The Chargers defense is pretty good. I can't really fault him for not being able to do a whole lot of stuff against them.
Yeah.
And Burrow already proved that he can perform in the clutch. Because another game where a tick-tack offensive pass interference call determined something at the end of the game. And then just awful kicking scenarios this week. Bengals had the same problem.
Did he fake the injury afterwards?
Yeah.
I knew that was.
Yeah, that was a little sus. But Burrow, other than that one pick on the shovel pass to Melvin Ingram, that was boneheaded. But beyond that, like he didn't make very many horrendous mistakes last week. And I think that his mistakes are going to be less capitalized upon by the Browns than they were by the Chargers. You know, if you catch my drift. So I think that if this is a game where you want to pick a Cincinnati upset, I think this is the one. If you want to pick a Cincinnati upset, I think this is the game to do.
So is this your upset of the week?
You know what? Yeah, we'll call it my upset of the week. Joe
Anthony,
Burrow,
should we
first
flip
NFL
the
win
coin?
in prime time.
I like that.
So I guess I'm gonna go next. Yeah, definitely. I forgot to mention in my winners. I think Joe Burrow was a real winner this week. Not even though he lost, but we saw his ability to perform in the clutch. And yet another questionable call this week. I mean, I think this one was a little more to yes, it was a penalty side, but AJ Green in the end zone, that push off could have gone either way. But he made that pass. And like Graham said, he's making mistakes. Like I remember one play, he overthrew AJ Green on 3rd and short. AJ Green was in one-on-one coverage, had his guy completely burnt, and Burrow just overthrew him. I get it; it's a rookie; he's gonna make that mistake. But as he matures as a quarterback, he's going to improve upon that. So I don't. And like you said, the Browns last week just got absolutely shit on, and I think
pun intended.
Okay.
Clip it.
I'm gonna try and collect my train of thought again. But the Browns, I think, have a really talented roster. No, I know the talent. The Browns have a really talented roster, and I don't think they're gonna beat the Bengals up that badly. I was gonna say they're gonna shit on the Bengals, but I stopped myself there. I stopped myself real hard there. But definitely the Browns are gonna come out and get this win, just because I don't think Baker's gonna have a good game, just because I don't really believe in Baker as of right now. But that running back monster duo of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb is just unbelievable. And I'm still thinking about that stupid fucking shit joke. That Graham.
Anthony hung up.
I'm really hung up on it.
One eternity later.
But I feel like the Chargers really ran over the Bengals, and it's just the Browns are going to do wonders to them. Browns I say Browns by at least 7.
I'm
7 to 10.
gonna go with the Bengals for one reason. Like every time I give the Browns some kind of love and think they're gonna do something good, they just don't. So I'll go with the Bengals because I think offensively they can compete with Cleveland's defense, who got shit on last week.
Can we stop with the shit jokes, please?
It's just how I normally talk anyway. But I don't believe in Baker at all, really. And now there's rumors going on speculating Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be traded. So I think there's going to be some issues in that locker room. I think Baker's probably going to have a bad performance against a defense that's really not that good and has no business competing with a team that's so talented like the Browns. But I'll go with the Bengals just because I have zero confidence in the Browns, from the coaching staff to everybody on that roster. So
It could be a really shitty situation in Cleveland after this week. Okay, I'm done.
hypocrite.
I'm done. I'm done.
Please. All right. We'll
That's
go
it.
from one
No
set
more-
of bad teams to another one.
No more poopy jokes.
Okay, we'll call it a truce.
You can clip that one too.
The Giants and the Chicago Bears. Two teams that didn't look horrible week 1, but like it's the Giants and the Bears. So, what do you want to do about it? So I personally,
Jordan goes first.
Yeah.
Hail to the king.
I gotta go. Like Graham said, this is like a shitty matchup. There's not much to say about it other than that. Bears looked good at the end of the game, but the first half it was just awful. Giants are the Giants. I don't have much confidence in Daniel Jones at all. So I want to go with the Bears. I think this whole situation with Allen Robinson is going to be something to watch before the game. I don't think anything immediate's going to happen, but his relationship with Trubisky, I don't know how it is right now. But Anthony Miller, who had a touchdown pass last game and who had like 75 yards, had a pretty good game. I think he is evolving into a true number 2. And they still got David Montgomery, who can give him 15 to 20 carries at a pretty efficient rate.
What wasn't he hurt? Isn't he hurt?
Played.
He played? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it because it was the Bears and the Lions, but
I got Montgomery on my fantasy team, so I had to keep track.
Okay.
But yeah, he's good for an efficient 15 to 20 carries, which can help him out. And I think the Giants are going to struggle against the Bears defense. They struggled against the Steelers. Evan Ingram, who is touted as being a breakout star this year, had like 2 receptions. He had like 8 targets. He wasn't catching balls. They were defending him well. I think the Giants run into another problem facing a very good defense in Chicago, and Bears take it pretty handily.
Again, I'm gonna disagree with you on this one, Jordan. I think the Giants have got it. You said you don't trust Daniel Jones, but I was impressed with the way that he played.
I just want to
night.
remind you, I went 12-15.
You did, and maybe it's not a very good sign that I've disagreed with you on both games so far. But
they're both toss.
I was impressed with the way that Daniel Jones played last night. I thought that he was able to make some tough throws, like right on the break of the routes. He made some throws that I would not have expected him to make last year as a rookie. So I like the way that he's developing. I'm questioning Joe Judge's coaching ability at this point, because the fact that they kept, I understand that you have Saquon Barkley, but the fact that they kept turning to the run after just the offensive line got blown up again and again. And I know that the Steelers have one of the best front fours in football, but like, come on, man. Like, they weren't doing anything offensively on the ground.
And with Saquon Barkley. Does it get much easier with the Bears front 7? I mean, if they get Robert Quinn back, they got him, Khalil Mack, like that's and the thing about Saquon Barkley, the whole thing last year was like they're using the box on him. They're literally just making Daniel Jones throw the ball. And that's what they did last game, and Barkley gets shut down again. So if that's a theme for every NFL team, how efficient is Barkley really going to be if they're just looking to shut him down?
You're right, and I agree with that. But my thing is that I think that Daniel Jones played very well last night, even if they weren't able to come out with the win. I think that Giants defense was just atrocious. But I trust the Steelers offense far more than I trust the Bears offense to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So I think that this will be a little bit lower scoring game than what happened on Monday night. But at the same time, I think that Daniel Jones can be able to take advantage of some of his receivers that he's got, like Darius Slayton. They've got Ratley, Damon Ratley. He played pretty well last night. He didn't, shine, but he was a solid receiver. Evan Ingram didn't do all that, but I think that the Steelers linebackers' ability to cover him is far better than whatever the Bears are going to do. And I think the Giants take it. I think that Daniel Jones will be able to win a low-scoring game.
I think that
before you go, Anthony,
right.
I just got an update that said Allen Robinson has asked the Bears about the possibility of just trading him away. So there's some news that's
something we can follow throughout the week.
It's pretty relevant to what we're talking about right now. We'll see. Go ahead, Anthony.
That'd be huge.
Yeah, I want to get into Evan Ingram. Living in New York, I've heard Giants fans tell me every year, oh, Evan Ingram's going to have a good year. You see Evan Ingram, he's such a good tight end. He's a top 5 tight end. He's in a pretty terrible situation with the Giants, and I don't think anyone in that organization knows what they're doing, but he's just the lack of production just makes me want to believe less and less in him. But I'm going to pick the Giants for this game just because the Bears' offense is always such a question mark. I mean, it's always going to be bad, but when are they going to shine? Are they going to come up clutch like they did last week? And if you watched the game last night, the Giants had a couple of scoring opportunities that if they scored, they could have won the game. I look at that muffed kickoff that they recovered within the 5-yard line. They only got 3 points out of that. So if they can score on opportunities like that, that's 6-7 points right there, granted, because we don't know how kickers are these days and missing PATs. But another one is I think they had a really long drive that either they got nothing or only 3 off of. That's 11 points or something like that. I remember I was watching some sort of video. I'm just coming up with numbers right now. But that's 2 touchdowns that they could have scored. And 2 touchdowns. What was the score last night? 26-10, I believe?
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So,
but no. They scored a touchdown at the end. I think it was 26-17.
16.
Okay, 26-16.
Yeah.
Okay,
they went for 2 and didn't get it.
So you score those 2 touchdowns on those 2 opportunities and you win the game. And that you can't make mistakes like that as a football team. The Steelers are good enough of a team that they can capitalize on that with Ben Roethlisberger, who didn't have a bad outing last night. I don't think he's going to be anything great this year, but he looked good for coming off of an elbow injury. But I think the Bears are too unpredictable on offense, whether they're going to absolutely shit the bed or be really good. Not really good, but decent enough to get them through the game that they can rely on their defense. So I'm going to take the Giants in this one, just because I think they're going to fix their mistakes and they're going to come back a little bit stronger this week. Not expecting much from the Giants this year, but I can expect them to get the win from the Bears.
I'm going to go with the Bears this week, mainly because of their defense. I don't really think that, obviously the Steelers have a great defense, probably a little bit better than the Bears, but I don't think the difference between the Bears defense and the Steelers defense is great enough to allow the Giants to overcome that, if that makes sense. I don't think they really have the offensive capability, especially with how terrible their line is, to be able to compete with just the ferocity that Chicago's going to come after them with. I do think Chicago has more offensive potential than the Giants right now. I think they have more potential to get something going just because their O-line isn't quite as bad. As the Giants, they have some playmakers, Cordell Patterson, whatever the running back's name is, Singletary, or that's the one on the Bills. I don't know.
Street Cohen
and Montgomery. Montgomery is the other one.
Well,
and Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller. I think they just have more.
We talked about that, Anthony.
Yeah, I think they have.
We already covered that.
My audio is cutting in and out this whole episode.
Oh, okay. I just think the Bears are more equipped to win this game when it comes down to it. I don't think there's much that really goes into it. I don't think the Giants are really competitive at all. So.
Yeah. Another even split 2-2. If we go into the next one, we got the Philadelphia Eagles and the Los Angeles Rams. One team that looked pretty good, one team that looked pretty bad. But that being said, Jordan, you go ahead and give your thoughts because it's a whole new week.
Yeah. So you already mentioned it. The Rams look really good. Wentz looked good in the first half, and then just completely shit the bed again. I think it's another close one. I think this might be a split again, honestly, because I think you could go either way and justify it. I'm gonna make this my upset of the week. I'm gonna go with the Eagles taking the Rams with the W. I think Anthony mentioned it, saying Wentz is a bit of a dark horse for MVP. I don't think he's gonna be like that good this season, but he's definitely got the talent to perform. And the Eagles, I mean, they didn't have Miles Sanders, which is definitely a huge hit for them. As even when you're facing Washington, not having your number one running back is big. And the running game of the Rams didn't impress me that much at all. I don't really like committees that much, and they were going with Akers and then Brown and then Henderson, and I don't know, they didn't impress me too much. So, and Goff is, I think he's going to take he's hit or miss. He needs a couple more games for me to really think that he's back to his 2018 self. And I got more confidence in Wentz over Goff, so I'm going to take the Eagles. But I think it's going to be a close game.
I think you hit everything right on the head. I'm going to go with the Eagles as well. I think that, especially if they get Miles Sanders back, I think that they'll be able to run the ball, and that will add a whole different dynamic to their offense. They didn't have it all against Washington. But see, it's like you said, I can see it going either way, because the Rams secondary against the Philadelphia wide receivers is a matchup nightmare for Philadelphia. And Aaron Donald on a depleted offensive line can be even worse. So I think that it could really go either way. But I think that if the Eagles can get Miles Sanders back, if they can get their offensive line a little bit healthier, play some of their better guys, and if Wentz can play his best, play within himself the entire game rather than just in one half, I think the Eagles can take advantage of it, especially because they don't really have to worry about the Rams run game that much. It's like we said, Goff is hit or miss. It's just one of those games where it's like you said, we've said it a couple times already, it can go either way, but I think that Philadelphia can come out on top.
One thing before Anthony, you go, we mentioned Miles Sanders, and Anthony had said the Eagles line just got decimated. I didn't watch any of the games, so I'm not exactly sure, but I totally believe that because Wentz looks so bad. But, that adds something where it's like, if you're getting blitzed and you have Sanders be able to go out to the left or to the right and dump it off, maybe you save a sack or something like that. And he's someone who has that dynamic ability to, pass, catch, and is a good runner. So that's really a key piece that they were missing against Washington. Should they have won the game? Of course, but it took Miles Sanders being out and a Wentz collapse in the second half for them to lose that game. And even then, they weren't out of the game. It wasn't like it didn't start to become a blowout. It was just poor play from Wentz and a significant injury. So I think that's something you got to look at.
Poor play for Wentz because of his garbage offensive line.
Yeah.
I mean, they were, because I had that game, I had the Jets and the Bills, obviously, and I had the Eagles and the Redskins in my area. And I had that going to work, and every 2 seconds I looked up, Carson Wentz was on the ground, getting sacked or getting hit. I'm like, what the hell? What's going on? They were up 17-0. So I don't think, it's a make or break year for Carson Wentz, but I don't feel that they're going to improve much. Like, how good is an offensive line going to get within a week, really? So if you really can't improve that, especially going up against Aaron Donald, who you have to triple team and he'll still knock you down, that's going to be a problem for them this week. And like Graham said about the Rams secondary, I think they're going to be a matchup nightmare for the Eagles receiving core. And I think that Jared Goff is going to come off this win against Dallas, who is a Super Bowl favorite, according to Graham. I mean, I believe him. And I think there are many other people's Super Bowl favorites. Well, not many others, because everybody hates the Cowboys in America. But I definitely think he's going to be hot coming off that win. And that fast-paced offense, like I mentioned before, I forgot how good they were. Guys like Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. Granted, they don't have Todd Gurley anymore, but they still got their bread and butter in Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. Sorry, I'm losing my breath here. And I think you still have Tyler Higbee on that team, who you can also dump it down the middle to. So I think this fast-paced Rams offense is going to take advantage of the Eagles. Rams take this one. I was going to say it's my guarantee of the week, but Graham and Jordan brought up some very excellent points. So I'm going to just stick with the Rams for this week, but I can see how it would go either way. This is going to be a great game. Actually, I'm going to make this, I don't know if I make this or another game my most looking forward to of the week, the game I'm most excited for. So we're gonna hit the brakes on that one for a little bit. I'm gonna stop talking and let that go.
What it comes down to for me is, are the Eagles as talented as the Cowboys? And they're not at all on either side of the ball. So the Rams, obviously, they had that controversial call at the end of the game against the Cowboys, but the Cowboys have a much better offense, much better receivers, better running back, much better O-line. And on the defensive side of the ball, the Cowboys have a lot more playmakers on that side of the ball. The Eagles do have good players. They have Fletcher Cox. I think they have Darius Slay too, after that offseason trade. But
They do.
On the defensive side of the ball, the Rams have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, which I said last week, two probably top 3 players at their position. Aaron Donald being the best defensive player we've probably seen in the past 20 years outside of Ray Lewis. So I really just don't think the Eagles have the capability on either side of the ball to contend with the Rams. And that's not really so much praising the Rams as it is kind of me recognizing the Eagles situation is really desperate in terms of receiving help for Carson Wentz and Miles Sanders coming back from injury if he even plays. I just think the Rams simply have them outmatched, and it comes down to that. Carson Wentz is going to have a hell of a day if the Eagles are to win this game.
Very fair point. It's like I said, this one can go either way. I would just like to point out, in 3 games, we have had every combination of a split. I have agreed with Jordan on 1 game. I've agreed with Anthony on 1 game, and I've agreed with Pat on 1 game. So this week is all over the place. Next game we got up is Atlanta at Dallas. So go ahead, Jordan.
It's a fun one.
Oh, Jordan's got no audio.
Uh-oh.
Hello.
Up there.
There you go.
There we go. I was actually saying I think Graham's going to agree with me on this one and say it's a pretty obvious pick. I'm going to go with Dallas. I don't see Atlanta being much of a threat. Matt Ryan was torching. Who'd they play?
Seattle.
They played Seattle.
Seattle. He was torching Seattle, but they couldn't get in the end zone. He had 400 yards and it was 300 yards and
450.
Yeah, and he had 300 and no touchdowns at one point, which I think is a little worrisome. He can, throw to 3 different guys and get them above 100 receiving yards, but he can't get them in the end zone. I think Todd Gurley's gonna be a pretty good running, but he's not gonna be back to his normal self, I don't think. But he's what they needed and what they had with Devontae Freeman. But I don't know, man. Dallas's talent is so extraordinary, and it really came down to that one play. If Gallup catches that ball and doesn't, he did catch it. If he doesn't, interfere with Ramsey, that's a
quote.
But however you want to look at it, if he doesn't interfere with Ramsey there, that's a Cowboys win, and we're flipping the script and saying the Rams couldn't be the Cowboys instead of Cowboys losing to the Rams. So I think that just the talent is hard to argue with. It's going to be hard to bet against the Cowboys unless they're really looking poor. But I think Dak had looked pretty good. Zeke looked like his normal self. CeeDee Lamb had a couple of good grabs, and then Cooper and Gallup did their thing. And I think that it's going to be a shootout. I think this could be maybe the highest scoring game of the week. But I'm going to take the Cowboys in this one.
I agree. We've made my love for the Cowboys very well known this year. The Falcons, I just don't trust them. I don't trust the Falcons' ability to capitalize on mistakes. Matt Ryan's great. He's cool. Julio Jones is great, but
he's cool.
He's cool. Cool. What are you gonna do about it? The Cowboys' talent is so undeniable. It's just there. It's just a matter of if they take advantage of it. And I think even though they didn't week 1, I think they can do it this week. Falcons' defense is much less worrisome to me than the Rams. I don't think this game will even be close. I got Dallas.
And you mentioned that the Falcons couldn't get in the end zone because it's a real shame that Julio had over 150 yards receiving, no touchdowns. And I think that's been pretty much the story of his career, the last few years, I should say, that he puts up these crazy yards. He gets these crazy grabs, but he doesn't get the touchdowns. And I think the even bigger shame is that that's what knocks him off of people. In terms of the best receivers in the league, that's what knocks him down alone. Oh, Julio doesn't get touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins gets all these cool touchdown catches, and Michael Thomas catches 3 touchdowns a game. It's that's such bullshit because Julio, I think we've talked about it before. I think Julio's the most talented wide receiver in the league, and it's a shame that he doesn't get in the end zone. And that's something that Atlanta really needs to work on, is getting him in the end zone scoring, getting him one-on-one with a cornerback, because I think against 90% of the cornerbacks in the league, he would absolutely decimate, just because of his size and his athleticism and his ability to go up and get the ball on a goal line fade. Just like Graham said, they don't match up with the Cowboys that well, or they don't match up with the Cowboys at all. They definitely have a salty taste in their mouth, Dallas, after that questionable call at the end of the Los Angeles game. Cowboys are going to beat them. They're going to beat them up bad. And I saw people saying, I think CBS Sports said that Dallas is on upset alert and Atlanta's going to beat them by 3 points. And like, I read it and like, that's bullshit. That's such BS, just because Atlanta's defense is no good. Though later down the line, the loss of Leighton Vander Esch could hurt them. I think he's out 6 to 8 weeks with something in his neck and neck injury.
He broke his collarbone.
Yeah.
I knew it was something up there because they were playing with his neck during the game, and those suck. So Cowboys win this one in a landslide.
Yeah, I'm with all you guys. I think the Cowboys are going to win. But like Graham said, I think it's going to be an absolute shootout, because the Seahawks have a pretty good defense. Granted, their pass defense isn't great, but neither is Dallas's. I was saying before the show started that last week Atlanta had 3 receivers with over 100 yards, including Julio Jones, who I think had 150. So I think this is going to be a really high-scoring game, but what it comes down to is Atlanta's ability to convert in the red zone, which I really don't think they have a very strong red zone offense. Obviously, Julio Jones doesn't really get a lot of touchdowns. That's really a testament to their struggles in the red zone. So I'll trust Zeke and Dak to kind of carry the load here and get them over the hump. I think Dallas is going to score at least 30 points, but Atlanta is just not going to be able to put enough together to beat them. But Atlanta has a really good offense. It's just they got to figure something out in the red zone. And their defense is awful.
Yeah. And
Russell Wilson put up 38 points.
The thing that's funny is, if someone told me or any of you guys, look, this offense just put up 3 100-yard receiving days, their quarterback threw for 400 something yards, got a couple touchdowns. Like, what do you think happened? You'd think they won the game, and they still lost. So it took, 3 100-yard days from Julio, Ridley, and Russell Gage, and a pretty damn good day from Matt Ryan with 400 plus and a couple touchdowns, and they still couldn't contain Russell Wilson. Granted, Russell Wilson's a better quarterback than Dak Prescott, but Dak Prescott's still a damn good quarterback. So it's like, is it really? You can't have Matt Ryan doing that every week. He's not going to do it every week. So is that really what it takes for the Falcons to compete in a game with a top team? Because if that's the case, they're going to lose a lot of games.
Yeah, I agree.
There's nothing to complain with there. I think another one, this next game is one that I don't think we should spend too much time on. It's Carolina at Tampa Bay.
It's a wrap. I don't even think we do
Upset of the week? Upset of the week?
If someone picks this now, no, it's Tampa. Yeah, as much as I'm not really sure where I stand on the Brady. I'm not like I'm okay with him succeeding. I'm okay with him not. It's whatever. But yeah, you can't. No matter how bad you think the Bucs played, no matter how bad you think Brady played, or how bad you think the organization is, you really can't justify in any way picking the Panthers over the Buccaneers. There's just too much talent on the Bucs team, and I feel like when it comes down to just like both teams having a bad week one, you just have to look at the rosters and be like, who has the ability to have guys, have big days? And really, can you name, other than McCaffrey, can you really name a guy? Maybe DJ Moore, but I wouldn't even say
Robbie Anderson had a big day. Robbie Anderson had a big day this past week.
Okay, but you guys agree, obviously, that the Buccaneers' talent is,
undeniable.
Panthers, and so at that point, it just comes down to, I feel like that is how I judge. If both teams have bad week ones, but yeah, Buccaneers.
What do you mean? Cam Newton's still on the Panthers. I'm kidding, please.
Tampa. That's all I gotta say.
Tampa. But I feel like there was something I wanted to get into with Tampa. Oh yeah, this is their first. Last week was their first outing as a football team. That first snap was the first snap of real football that they played, and mistakes are going to be made. It's growing pains as a team, and Brady doesn't throw those 2 interceptions, and I think Tampa could have won that game. I mean, he threw a pick six, and he threw another interception on top of that. So you take away those 2 picks and you turn them into scoring drives. It's a much closer game, maybe even a Tampa Bay win. So this game isn't even debatable. Tampa Bay wins in another landslide. This is my lock of the week.
Mine too. Sorry.
We could have the same lock.
Actually, you know what? I'll save my lock of the week.
Okay. And I'm not going to get offended if you pick the same lock of the week as me.
I'll save mine.
I don't care.
I'll save it.
I don't care. Yeah, I'm going Tampa. That's all I'll say.
All right. Well, then right next into it. Next game, this one should be similarly short. San Francisco 49ers at New York Jets.
I don't even know if we should talk about this one.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna. Other than Le'Veon Bell just got put on IR. I don't know if you guys saw that, like literally half an hour ago. So he's not back until early October.
Solidifies our decision.
Now you got Frank. Yeah, now you got Frank Gore in that backfield. And the only thing that is good about that Jets offense right now was maybe Le'Veon Bell could do his thing for a game and grab them a win. Right now, you can say whatever you want about Sam Darnold maybe being a future top quarterback, but Jesus, that team looks so bad, and it's going to be the 49ers by a lot.
This is my lock of the week. This game is my lock. There's absolutely no way that the 49ers lose this game.
Yeah.
And if they do, I'm going to – my brother's not going to hear the end of it if they do. But the thing is, they're not 49ers by a lot.
All right, Pat. Right on, man. All right, next game. This one should be a little bit more debate. We've got the Denver Broncos at Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, this is another game that's a toss-up, but I'm gonna put my lock of the week on this game.
Oh,
rolling the dice a little bit. I've got a lot of confidence in Ben Roethlisberger and Juju Smith, especially with how that run game looked, even with James Conner out, and they're not sure if he's gonna be back this week. Benny Snell, my God, he ran all over them. They've got Juju Smith, like I said. Deontay Johnson looked pretty good. They have a lot of talent on that team, I think. And a lot of people kind of wrote Juju Smith off last year because he looked so bad with, Rudolph and Hodges. But Ben Roethlisberger and Juju the year before had a great dynamic, even with when AB was on the team. And that's kind of picked up where it left off with Juju looking great and grabbing 2 touchdowns in like 70 yards or something like that. So, yeah, I think I'm going to put this as my lock of the week. It's a risky pick, but I got confidence in the Steelers outplaying the Broncos, especially if Philip Lindsay doesn't play. I think that is a big hit for them as well.
See, okay, I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I've got Denver this week because, number one, I think that Drew Lock is finally going to be able to settle in and take this offense as his own. I think there's still a chance that Cortland Sutton plays this week, which would be huge for Denver. And I'm going to disagree with you mainly on the fact that Philip Lindsay not being a part of this offense helps Pittsburgh, because I think it actually helps Denver to be able to give Melvin Gordon the lion's share of the touches and not have to worry about who they've got in. Because Melvin Gordon played pretty well last night. And so I think that him having the majority of the carries for Denver allows them to be more more dead set on their game plan against the Steelers. And I think that's fair. Yeah.
One thing I just want to say, I think I agree with you. I think that I mentioned, I don't like running back by committee because I feel like you can't get a flow to the game. But I do think that the Broncos have relied for a long time on their 2 running back sets with like Freeman and Lindsay last year. And I think that may affect how I don't know how much that'll affect their game plan. I think that's like one of the teams you always see using those 2 running back sets. And
I mean, even since Noshawn Moreno and Monte Ball, like they've been doing it for years.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they change it up. But I agree. I think giving Melvin Gordon the majority of the touches is definitely a good move.
And I attribute Saquon's inability to get the ball going on the ground more to how bad the Giants' offensive line is and less to how good the Steelers' front 7 is. Which I'm not taking anything away from how good the Steelers' front 7 is, because they are very, very good. Top 3 in the league, in my opinion. Yeah. But, come on, dude. That Giants' offensive line is so bad. I think it's much more their fault than it is the Steelers' gain.
Yeah.
So I think the Broncos' defense played well last night. They were able to get stops when they needed them, except for obviously at the very end of the game. And I just, yeah, obviously, but the fact that they forced 4 field goal attempts in one game, it says a lot about them.
Yeah.
They bended, but they didn't break. And I like that. I like to see that in a defense. I think that especially against the Steelers, that's going to be key if they can lock up Juju Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
I think they have the ability to do that on defense. I think that the Broncos can take it.
One thing I want to say, sorry, Anthony, not to cut you off, but Evan Ingram, I don't want to go back to him, but one of the big things I saw is that, Ingram was locked up by the Steelers defense. And I guess the Steelers are touted for having great defense against tight ends. I don't know what
they have very good pass defense linebackers.
Yeah. So that when I look at the Broncos offense, who did they rely most on without Sutton? It was Noah Fant. He tore up the first half. He was a little bit quiet in the second half, but he had like 80 yards and a touchdown. So if they don't have that to just go to when Drew Lock needs someone to throw to, I think Sutton's going to be back, so that shouldn't really be a problem. But still, Noah Fant's probably arguably their number 2 unless you want to say Judy is, but them being able to shut them down, is going to be a factor. Go ahead, Anthony.
All right, I just wanted to say I got a Twitter notification just now. I thought it was really funny. Cardi B files for divorce from Offset. I just thought that was pretty funny. Like, why is that coming up on my Twitter feed? I don't know. I don't care about either of them. But we're Broncos Steelers. Yeah, I think this is definitely a harder pick than Rams Eagles, just because I think these teams match up so well against each other, whether it's the offense and the defense on either team. But man, I could go back and forth with this all day. As of right now, Courtland Sutton isn't playing. He's still injured. So I'm going to pick the Steelers just on that alone. I think Courtland Sutton gives the Broncos that edge. Granted, the Steelers have a bit of a better defense than the Titans, I believe. I mean, when it comes to secondary all around, I think they have a better defense in Pittsburgh than Tennessee. It showed the other night. And I think Pittsburgh's offense is better than Tennessee's right now. Granted, it's week 1. It's still technically preseason. Everyone's not in their full swing yet. Derrick Henry, like we said, maybe down the line, Tennessee's offense is better than Pittsburgh's. Maybe Ben Roethlisberger goes down. I'm not saying that I hope Ben Roethlisberger goes down, but you got Derrick Henry, who we talked about last week. He's a second half of the season running back, and he hasn't really kicked it in yet. So I'm going to pick the Steelers just because I'm not that confident in Denver's run D as of right now, just because we didn't see Derrick Henry at his full potential. Like, if he was at his full swing, if he was mid-season Derrick Henry, end of the regular season Derrick Henry, and Denver was able to stop him like that, oh yeah, then I have all 100% confidence in the world in Denver's defense. But as of right now, I think the Steelers have the edge over them. It's going to be a very close game, a 1 to 3 point game.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, Anthony. I think the Steelers are going to take it, just because I don't think Denver really has the experience or the weapons, like you said, Jordan. Pittsburgh's very good against tight ends, and I think if you take away Noah Fant, obviously, the Broncos really don't have. I mean, they have a lot of other weapons, but with Drew Lock being an inexperienced quarterback, I don't know if he's going to be able to overcome that. And on top of that, I think the Steelers are going to be one of the teams that gets a lot better as the season progresses, as Big Ben kind of gets more in a groove, as the offense gets more comfortable with him back under center. So I think Steelers are going to take it pretty handily. Not to, take anything away from Denver, but I just don't think they're really ready for a challenge like the Steelers and their defense and their offensive potential. Like, Benny Snell rushed for 100 yards last week, so I think behind that offensive line, he'll be able to get something going against the Broncos. So I'll pick the Steelers.
It's all growing pains with these teams. It's still week 1,
yeah.
And they didn't play a preseason. You saw it with Denver last night. We saw it with Tampa Bay, Dallas, all teams we expected a lot out of, and they all lost. Sure, teams like Arizona were able to pull off a win against the reigning NFC champions, but that was just the situation they were given, and they were more prepared. Not taking anything away from them. I'm not saying that they did. Oh, it doesn't really count. It's still technically preseason, but these teams will get better. I'm not discrediting them at all.
That's a fair point. And speaking of teams that we think will get better, going right into Tennessee, they've got Jacksonville in Tennessee this week. Jacksonville played pretty well, came away with a win.
Only
A lot of
Mania, baby.
I know people that picked them to go 0-16 this year, and that already went down the drain. So, Jordan, are you riding the Minshew hype?
No, I'm gonna stick with the Titans here. I don't have a lot of confidence in Tannehill. I actually don't think the Titans will make the playoffs, but I do think they win this game. They prove that they can go head to head with a pretty good squad in Denver. And the Jaguars aren't anything close to what at least Denver's potential. And Derrick Henry is still a force. He rushed for over 100 yards again. He's so impossible to stop no matter what you do. And they were forcing him to the outside, which is what you should do. And he was still getting 6-7 yards a carry. So I think the Jaguars struggle with that. And AJ Brown was pretty much non-existent, but I think he steps up this game, and Tannehill gets his reps in with him. And I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't think this is going to be some shootout or anything like that. I don't ride Minshew at all, and I don't think Tannehill's that good. But I'm going to go with honestly just going with Derrick Henry. That's the reason I'm picking the Titans.
I have a lot more faith in Tennessee than you do. I think that Tennessee will win this game pretty handily. I do have a question for you, Jordan. So you said that you think it'll be low-scoring. You don't really like Tannehill that much. You picked them to win. Do you think they'll cover? It's Tennessee minus 10.5 right now.
No, I don't think they'll cover.
Really? Jags against the spread. All right.
I'm legit thinking like a 13-10 game.
Wow.
Like really low score.
16-10. I'll give you 16-10.
That's fair. But you're also assuming that means Gostowski's going to hit a couple of field goals, which I was going to say 16-10, but I was like,
Forgot about Gostowski.
Neither team will score more than 20 points. I'll leave it at that.
That's okay.
Hot take.
I think that means it's my turn now.
Yes.
I was in my bio class the other day, and I was watching Good Morning Football during it, and
that's what we like to hear.
That they were talking about Gardner Minshew. I believe it was Babs's old pal Nate Burleson, and he was saying how Minshew's just got this swagger to him that he really doesn't care. Everyone's saying, "Oh, the Jags are going to tank this year and grab Trevor Lawrence in the draft. They're going to get the first pick and grab him. What does that mean for Minshew? He's probably not going to start, blah, blah, blah." And he's just balling out. As of right now, he's balling out. As of September, the 15th?
Yes.
After week 1, he is balling out. He had a great game against the Colts. Definitely, will he keep it up? It's a real question mark. He might keep it up for a few weeks like he did last year, and then just all the hype go away after he starts having a couple of bad games. And I think that's going to start this week. But I definitely think the Titans can win. But I'm going to put the Titans on upset alert this week just because I feel like Minshew can ball out and come up in the clutch. I'm not saying that the Titans are going to lose. I'm still picking the Titans, but I think they're at the most risk to be upset this week.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Titans. I think it's an easy pick, but I love the Jaguars. I just love what Gardner Minshew's doing. I think the Titans, like you said, Jordan or Graham, I'm picking them because of Derrick Henry. Yeah, I'm not a big Ryan Tannehill guy either. I'm really not a Ryan Tannehill guy at all. I really don't like him. I think he's a fraud and not worth that money. But I do like the weapons that Jacksonville has. I really like Laviska Shenault. I think he might be actually one of the best receivers in this class. But, end of the day, Tennessee is a much better defense than the Colts. So I think you got to pick Tennessee. I'm thinking that's a lock of the week for me.
All right.
I like the dice roll locks. I love that.
Could it be me and Graham?
Hey, you got it. I mean, that's fine too.
We're about halfway through now. Next game up, we're about almost done with the 1:00 games. We got 3 more. This next one up shouldn't take too terribly long. We got Detroit Lions at Green Bay Packers.
Oh yeah, I don't know so much on this.
Wasn't the Packers game split last week with us? Didn't 2 of us pick?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It was Anthony and Jordan.
And we were on the right. I was on the right side of that.
Hey, you know what? If the Vikings defense knew what defense was, we might be having a different conversation.
Fair.
Knew what defense was.
But yeah, for this game, I mean, I think it's more of the same for me. What I said last week, I mentioned Devontae Adams. I said I think he's one of the best receivers in the league. I think I ranked him at 3 when we did our list. And he proved me right that he can go off and him and Rodgers still have that connection. I think he went off for like 150 and 2 touchdowns, and that's all I need for me to have confidence in the Packers team is just a Rodgers Adams connection. And they still have Aaron Jones, running the ball well. So yeah, I think it's going to be the Packers. The Lions defense gives me no confidence that they could stop Rodgers, especially when he was able to dice up the Vikings. I know the Vikings secondary is a little, but I think there's still a serviceable defense.
Yeah.
And he just diced them up. And if he continues what he's doing, the NFL needs to look out because he's still Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go with Green Bay as well. I don't really have much to say on it. They're just good.
Mm-hmm.
That Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams trio, that kind of reminds me of the Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown trio back in Pittsburgh a few years back. They're really good together, and that trio alone is an offensive nightmare for defenses to go against. So Detroit's defense isn't there. Detroit just isn't there right now. I don't think they have been there since their inaugural game way back when. They haven't been there. So
it's just their first season.
Yeah, Packers are going to
All right, Anthony roasted all Detroit.
Come at me.
I'm going to go with the Packers as well. I think Aaron Rodgers, I was actually going to have him among my winners of the week. Maybe I'm thinking the Packers might have drafted Jordan Love just to piss Aaron Rodgers off. Because I think this year
the poor kid was only drafted to
right.
Imagine that. He's only drafted to piss someone off.
Apparently it worked.
What's that, Graham?
I said apparently it worked.
Oh yeah. I think Aaron Rodgers this year is going to have an MVP caliber year because he just looks like. I think he's just different this year. I think he's going to have his best season. Built different since his last MVP campaign. I think was back in 2014 or something. I don't know. But the Packers by like 1 million. The only thing the Lions have going for them is Matthew Stafford, and they always disappoint him, and it makes me want to cry. But yeah, I think Green Bay's easy pick. If I had 2 locks of the week, that would be my other one. But I only have 1. So.
Well, they say you can't have shit in Detroit, and apparently that includes wins. So, going into the next matchup, this one should also not take very long. We've got the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I literally have nothing to say about this other than the Bills are going to win. I mean, it's the Dolphins. I'll leave it at that.
I don't have anything to say either. Bills.
I always find something to say.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, we know.
We're starting to realize I think Josh Allen is starting to mature as a quarterback.
Yeah.
One of the plays that really stood out to me was one of the red zone plays that they had. He was in a play where last year he would have just chucked it into triple coverage or double coverage trying to get a touchdown. He just threw it out the back of the end zone like a mature quarterback would. And just to see him starting to do that, it's like, all right, he can be scary. I mean, I don't want to see him get like that because it's the freaking Bills. I want to win the division every year at least. So, Bills definitely win this one.
The reason I said that, Graham, is because there was a tweet his first year in training camp that said Josh Allen looks good in shorts. And so now
Dude,
kind of a running.
It's still no such September.
Joke.
You got to calm down.
We're gonna clip that where you just compliment his shorts or his.
He
looks good in shorts. I agree. I think Josh Allen's actually starting to come along. I think he's actually becoming smart and getting a little more accurate on those throws. Obviously, he has the arm. He just needs to work on the accuracy. But yeah, I think the Bills are gonna kill the Dolphins.
So you think he's going to be the best quarterback to come out of that draft class?
What year was he drafted? 2017?
Same year as Lamar Jackson.
The one with Lamar Jackson.
I forgot Lamar was that year. I thought that was the year with Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield.
I think you can already write off Arnold and Rosen. I'm sorry. I think you can go ahead and say that they did not work.
Rosen and who?
Baker and Darnold.
Wait.
Yeah.
So they were 2018 then. Lamar was 2018.
Correct.
You're right. Yeah, I got my years.
So was
mixed up.
Allen 2018? I thought he was 2017.
Yeah, Allen. It was the 5 quarterbacks in the first round of that draft
Yeah.
were Baker, Darnold, Rosen, Allen, and Lamar.
The
Okay.
time flies. It's kind of
Yeah,
That's
scary.
crazy.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
don't like it.
Bills. If you don't pick the Bills, you're.
Cap.
If I had 3 locks of the week, this would be my third one.
All right, this is the final 1:00 game this upcoming Sunday. Minnesota Vikings and Indianapolis Colts.
So I had to search this game up because I still haven't picked my upset of the week, and believe it or not, the Colts are favored in this game.
What? 'Cause
Really?
they're
So
home?
I'm gonna go and pick the Vikings as my upset of the week.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I
it's an easy
thi-
upset with me.
What the heck?
Yeah, I was surprised. I was like, well, there's no way Indy's favored, but I guess they like Philip Rivers, and that's about it.
No, I don't.
I know Graham's obviously not picking the favorites because he
Graham's
would.
rolling his eyes.
But I think I don't know. The Vikings are, like Anthony mentioned, a lot of teams are like still figuring themselves out. Dalvin Cook had a great game, and he's like, I think with Diggs obviously gone, he's gonna get a step up. Thielen did his thing, and people were always, I think I mentioned it. How is Thielen going to perform without another top receiver by his side? And he obviously performed fine. Colts defense is not anything you need to really worry about, and Kirk Cousins gets a lot of flack, but I don't think he gets recognition at all, really. And I think
Put up points.
Yeah, exactly. He does his job and he does it pretty well. So yeah, I'm gonna take the Vikings.
I could put my left nut under center, and it would do better than Philip Rivers.
All right.
Okay.
I don't know what to say to that, but I believe it.
And
I
another
didn't,
game on
Vikings.
I
station.
didn't see it, Graham, but I believe you.
Minnesota Vikings win.
Yes, sir.
All right, you threw me off again with your potty humor. But yeah, I think the Vikings offense is a little too much for the Colts right now. Even without Stephon Diggs, you got that trio of Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen. It's not as good as Rodgers, Jones, and Adams, but I do definitely think that the Colts just. We talked about it last week. Philip Rivers is gonna end up shitting the bed at some point in the year, and he ended up shitting the bed last week. In week one. I didn't expect that. I don't think anyone expected that against the Jaguars, but so yeah, the Colts. I wouldn't say the Colts are done, but I think the Vikings are a bit too much for them this week.
Yeah, I agree. The line is Colts -3. I think the Vikings are going to go in there and beat their ass, to be honest.
Yeah.
Honestly, that still surprises me because that means that if it was a neutral site game, it'd just be straight up pick 'em.
Yeah.
That shocks me.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
I would definitely bet on the Vikings this week. I don't think the Colts really have anything to stop them on defense.
Nope.
Or
anything at all.
Yeah. I'll say this. I love Jonathan Taylor. And now that Marlon Mack's down,
Yeah.
I picked up Nyheim Hines in fantasy. So him and Jonathan Taylor hopefully are gonna go off. But again, there's no way they're beating the Vikings. 0-2. They're on the highway. They're on the autobahn towards mediocrity. The Colts.
Well put. Well put.
No speed limit. They're just going.
Next up, we got Washington football team at the Arizona Cardinals.
Another game that you really shouldn't take that much.
My fantasy team is licking their chops right now with Kyler Murray at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. Murray looked great, and he's speaking of dark horses for MVP. He might be one if he keeps it up. Yeah, that offense was. I mean, Kenyon Drake and the running backs, both of them didn't have that good of days. They
didn't need to.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a scary thing. People are thinking, Drake's such a dynamic running back where he can, pretty much do it all, and he really was held back in Miami, and he didn't do anything week one, and they still, were able to get the win. So yeah, and now they're facing Washington. Washington's the fakest 1-0 team in the entire league right now.
More than
they're
Jaguars?
leading
NFC East champs, baby.
Yeah, I think they're faker than the Jaguars. I think you can look at Minshew and be like, all right, maybe he can string together some wins. But I think Washington is just like they just got lucky that the offensive line of the Eagles was so bad. But yeah, the Cardinals' offense is too way too much to handle for the Redskins, and the Cardinals defense is also, I think, enough to just shut down the football team.
Just say one.
So I only have one thing to say about this game. I saw a tweet. It said that Kyler Murray ran 13 times in the last game, and he either slid, ran out of bounds, or scored on 12 of the 13 runs, which means that he only got tackled once, which says a lot about his shiftiness, and it says a lot about his ability to read the defense in the open field as a quarterback. And to be a mobile quarterback and sustainable mobile quarterback in this league, you have to know what you're going to do when you run into a defense. So his ability to know when to slide, know when to get out of bounds. Exactly. I really like Kyler Murray as being a fixture in this league for a long time. And I think that the Cardinals are going to win pretty handily this week.
Anthony, before you go real quick, there was a clip I saw on Twitter of Kyler Murray's scramble where he got that touchdown, where he was cutting up the middle like about 15 yards away from the end zone. And there was a safety like going full speed right, like chasing him right behind him. And Kyler Murray just accelerated and burned him to the end zone. Like a quarterback.
He's unbelievably fast.
Yeah, a quarterback having that kind of speed is just like,
crazy.
Ridiculous. Yeah. He's going to run circles around this defense.
Yeah, so now I know that before every take, I got to wait for someone to interfere. No, I don't care.
That is true. I've done it twice now.
This whole episode. But yeah, Kyler Murray's doing his thing right now. I think he's definitely, like Jordan said, a dark horse to win MVP. Something about the Cardinals I've just always liked. I've always rooted for them. I don't know. I've always liked the atmosphere of their stadium, watching them. Larry Fitzgerald, you can't not like him. Tyrann Mathieu, and I think that's when I kind of had this soft spot for the Cardinals because Tyrann Mathieu was one of my favorite players in the league for a long time. So it's hard for me to root against them personally unless they're playing New England or I pick against them. But this week I'll be rooting for them. I'm taking the Cardinals.
Oh shit, it's my turn. Sorry.
You interfered with me when it's not your turn, but now okay.
Yeah, because I was already talking. Yeah, I think the Cardinals are going to win this one pretty handily. Washington doesn't really have the defense outside of their front seven or their D line really to compete. So Kyler Murray's going to have a big day for me next week. I'm getting ready. I'm hyped. Yeah.
I can't help but agree. Now we're moving into the more interesting matchups. Yeah. This one we've got Baltimore Ravens at Houston Texans.
This one, it's a tough one. I think Houston, I don't know, man. David Johnson back there, where he, really tore it up week one. Something that they, a running game that they really haven't had for a while. Their offense was without DeAndre Hopkins was decent. I mean, they obviously didn't win, but they were in the game.
Chiefs.
Yeah, exactly. So honestly, I'm gonna go upset again. I'm gonna pick the Texans over the Ravens. You got to take some risks. You got to take some risks to stay in the lead. And if I'm gonna pick the Ravens to lose one of their games early on in the season, they're not totally in their groove yet. They're against a tough Texans team. Maybe they underestimate Houston. What'd you say?
I don't know. They looked pretty good last week. But
yeah, I know. I'm not saying the Ravens aren't a good team. I'm just saying I think there could be a sense of false hope with them playing the Texans, thinking that this is going to be kind of a walk in the park after the Texans just lost. So maybe something with that. I'm just trying to justify my pick because I'm kind of going out on a limb here. So there's not really much I can say other than I have a gut feeling the Texans are going to win. But Watson is good enough to beat any quarterback in the league.
That's true.
And David Johnson has at least week one proved that he can at least get back to somewhat of his normal self. I'm not saying he's the top 5 running back that we loved to see a couple years ago, but he's something that they haven't had back there. Will Fuller, and hopefully, Brandon Cooks is kind of a question mark, but Will Fuller was able to be that number one guy for Deshaun Watson. And like I said, I think if there's a game the Ravens lose early on in the season, it might be this one. So I'm going to go with the Houston Texans.
See, I think I think David Johnson was certainly much better than I expected him to be.
Yeah,
I thought he was just going to be same old scrub that he's been the past couple of years. And then he broke off a couple runs against the Chiefs, and I was like, all right, it might have something here. But I just don't trust, number one, Houston's secondary to keep up with the Ravens pass game. I doubted Lamar Jackson last week, and he proved me wrong. And I just want to say one thing. Jordan, you're wrong. In order to stay in the lead in a game like this, you do not have to take risks. Mathematically, if you pick the same team as the rest of us for the entire rest of the season, you'll keep your lead. So you're wrong on that.
This is where I can gain another game.
You're right, but mathematically,
I picked 12 out of 15.
Fair enough.
Why do I feel like season
you're right.
Jordan's going to be in last by like 50 games?
Still
living on that week 1 high.
I could definitely take the safe route, but now I have a little bit more clout in my picks. If like I got this one right, I could be like, well, guess what? I picked the Ravens upset week 2 when we're in week 5.
You are everything that I hate about sports media. You are everything that I hate about sports media.
I'm gonna get that tattooed on my arm.
Well, the text.
Anthony, before you go, I gotta say something.
I thought I learned my lesson, but I had to say something. But
I don't have anything. I just want to say that.
But yeah, I don't trust this Texans defense. Like we said before, this run-pass option, mobile quarterback style of football is still evolving, and it's still becoming more mainstream. We're starting to see a lot more teams use it. Houston's not ready for a team like the Ravens who rely on that. That's their identity right now. So I think the Ravens are going to win. Like you said, Deshaun Watson is capable of beating anybody at this point because I think he's an established name. I mean, they hung around last week. They lost by 14 to the reigning world champions, but at the same time, they hung around for most of the game. I think they can hang around with the Ravens, but it's just going to catch up to them at one point, and then Baltimore's just going to run all over them. So Ravens win this game.
Yeah, I'm on that train too. I think, like you guys said, Deshaun Watson can compete with any quarterback, especially guys like Lamar and Mahomes who have similar play styles to him. But at the end of the day, the Houston Texans really just aren't on the same level as the Ravens, like matchup-wise. Really anywhere except for quarterback, you could say it's kind of close. And receiver, but they're just not going to be able to match up, not going to be able to outscore them or stop them on defense. And Baltimore has a good defense too, so they could probably get some stops against Houston. So I'll go by Baltimore.
Yeah.
Going into Houston's opponent from this past week, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs at the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers' first game in their new stadium.
Hear me out. No, I'm kidding. I'm gonna pick the Chiefs.
Oh boy.
No, I'm going with the Chiefs. I mean,
you really
off a bean.
The Chargers.
Off a bean.
The Chargers defense is definitely good. I think it'll give Mahomes some problems. But I mean, I don't really have to say anything about this. I think the Chiefs are gonna, I think they'll. I'm not gonna say handedly because I think the Chargers defense is like you need to recognize it and recognize it as a top in the league. But the offense on that I almost said San Diego that LA has is just I don't know. I have zero confidence in it. They have talent like with Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry, but I don't have confidence in their quarterback, so I'm gonna pick the Chiefs.
I agree. I got the Chiefs, and I just have one thing to say. Patrick is being suspiciously quiet right now, and I just realized he hasn't done his upset of the week yet. So I'm going with the Chiefs.
No,
but
don't.
Anthony, go ahead.
Okay, so part of me wants to say the Chargers because that's just how fate works out. Oh, they're playing in a new stadium. They're going to get their first win in the first game of the new stadium. All right. I believe that more with the Raiders, though. We're going to get into the Raiders later on, but Chiefs are going to overwhelm the Chargers, I think. The Chargers are a better team than the Raiders. That the Raiders have more potential to do that. So the Chiefs are going to win this one I wouldn't say pretty easily, as divisional games seem to be a little tougher just across the league. Just because it's your division. You play a little harder. It's your division rival. But the Chiefs are going to win this one.
So.
Here we go.
I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Don't worry.
Okay.
You thought the Chiefs just think this isn't going to be close. Like, yeah, the Chargers have a good defense, but Tyrod Taylor versus Patrick Mahomes. I don't care if you swap the offenses and you put Patrick Mahomes with the Chargers offense, they would still win. Yeah,
That's an
I gotta go
interesting
with the Chiefs.
scenario.
Yeah.
It is,
I
isn't
mean,
it?
I agree. That's Mahomes on any
yeah,
offense, really.
you really gotta go with the Chiefs here.
Yep.
I agree. Now, the game that most of us have been waiting to talk about all day.
Game of the week.
Got the New England Patriots in Seattle on Sunday Night Football.
So, I if this was a game where I had no bias, I think I would pick the Seahawks. But
usually
unbiased content.
Yeah, usually unbiased. But in this case, I'm getting pulled over to the Patriots side just because I'm a Pats fan and because I saw what they did in week 1. And my main thing going with this game was that, one, if Jarrett Stidham was the quarterback, this is before the noon signing, I was thinking he's not inexperienced quarterback at all. He's going into Seattle. He's playing against Russell Wilson. He's gonna have to go blow for blow with him, or we're gonna get ran out of Seattle. But now that Cam Newton is here, who's been in the Super Bowl, who's won an MVP, who's been around
he's beat Seattle
for
too.
a while. Yeah. And
he knows what it takes to beat Seattle.
Yep. And he knows, he gave every single Patriots fan confidence this past week. No matter who it was against, they're still a football team, and he still looked really good. So, you can say that it was Miami, and I mentioned earlier on that we shouldn't over assume that he's going to be this outstanding quarterback all year, but he proved there that he can make accurate throws. He can run the option well. He can make smart plays, which is one of the big questions about Cam Newton. And the defense still looks stellar. Gilmore and J.C. Jackson and all of them. Once again, we got worse on the defensive end, definitely, but we're still up there in top defenses, and that says a lot about our secondary. But I think that they can compete with the Seahawks. I think it's going to be the game of the week, not just because it's our team, but just in general. I think it's going to be the most competitive game. I think the Patriots win this on a last-second field goal.
It's bold. So, I'm going to pick the Seahawks for 2 reasons. Number 1, if you have read any of my prediction articles, you know how unbelievably good I think Russell Wilson is. I think that he's going to continue his insane season this week. Chris Carson proved that he can be a number 1 running back, top 10 in the league. He has that potential. He always has. He didn't fumble. I may be wrong, but I don't think he fumbled last week. That was the main knock against him. That was the main knock against Chris Carson for a long time. His ball security has improved, at least in 1 week. And their receivers speak for themselves. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf is the most underrated wide receiver duo in the entire league, in my opinion. And I think that, 1, is that. And 2, we saw week 1 that the run game carried us to the win against Miami. But this week, we're going to have to take advantage of what they give us in the passing game. And obviously, the Falcons were able to put up yardage, even if they weren't able to put up points. But they have Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage. They have a good, pass receiving core. For us, it comes down to, do I think that Julian Edelman, Damiere Byrd, N'Keal Harry, Jacoby Myers, do I think that they can take the game into their hands? Obviously, I mean, we saw Cam Newton was an efficient passer in week 1, but I don't think that he can, completely rely on the pass. I don't think that the Seahawks were able to stop the run a decent amount against Todd Gurley and whatever the Falcons were able to put up against him. But I think that we're going to have to rely a lot more on the pass this week if we want to beat Seattle, and I don't think that I'm ready to put confidence in that unit yet. So I'm going to take Seattle simply because of that.
God damn it, Graham, because I was really hoping you would say the Pats go 2-0 for the Pats, and I would feel comfortable. Like, this game is really testing my morals, because I believe that you got to believe. Like Julian Edelman said it in Super Bowl 51, you got to believe. And I live my everyday life by that. Like that's part of the reason why Julian Edelman is my favorite Patriot athlete of all time, just because of the way he carries himself and goes about every game, every competition, every day in life. And you go against a team like Seattle, and it's just such a toss-up. Like we still really don't know what to expect from this team. Yeah, we have an idea of what their offense is going to look like this year with the run pass options and stuff like that, but you need the passing game to work too. You need a great balance of both. That's what all the great teams have. Look what Mahomes can do in Kansas City. He can run it down your throat. He knows how to use his legs, but when he has to, he will rifle the ball down the field for 50 yards, and that's what makes the Chiefs so great. On top of a bunch of other things, but man, I want to say I originally circled Seattle for this game just because I think that Russell Wilson is absolutely going to ball out this year. I think he's going to win MVP.
I agree.
I don't think there's any slowing him down this year besides the rest of the team, because as we've seen in the NFL, I was writing about it a little bit and I'm like, this does make sense. The best player on the best regular season team wins MVP. Look at Lamar Jackson last year. Look at Mahomes the year before. Look at Tom Brady the year before. Only one of them have won the Super Bowl, so are they really the most valuable player? I don't know. But man, this one's really tough. Because if I say Seattle, then every New England Patriots fan is going to come at me. Oh, you don't believe in this team. You don't like this team. You're a bandwagon. Get out of here. We don't want you. You're a fake fan.
I don't care.
I don't want to hear that shit. You got to drop a couple earlier in the year, especially to a good team like this. This is still a growing team. I talked about growing pains a lot during this episode. It's a motif of this episode for me, for my English nerds out there. I'm glad someone picked up on that. So
I know what that word means.
I know what a motif is.
What's that?
I know what a motif is.
We got to remember this kid's still in high school.
Don't sleep on my English skills.
Hey, relax there, buddy. Yeah, you gotta. This is a team that I think we were blinded by because we played Miami and we just looked so good against frickin' Miami. They're not good, Miami. But you need I'm trying to gather my thoughts because there's so much running through my brain right now about this team. This is still a team that's going to experience growing pains. And I think that this is a week that really exposes that. I'm going to take Seattle. God forgive me. Tom, forgive me. Bill, forgive me. Please.
Tom, forgive me.
Instead of saying God forgive me, Tom Brady is still God. And
Tom forgave you from Tampa, Florida.
From Tampa.
My God. God lives in Tampa.
I am going with Jordan.
Let's go.
I'm going with the Patriots for this reason. Is that so?
Tell them.
Seattle gave up 25 points to.
Half of them
Atlanta.
were in garbage time, mind that. Half of them were in garbage time.
Right, but they still give up 25 points. What I'll
When they were up
say
by
is
25.
I think that New England's red zone offense is probably better than Atlanta's because we have kind of the dual threat nature going on. And I don't think that Atlanta's defense is – I know it's not anywhere near the Patriots level at all, especially in terms of defensive backs in the secondary. And Seattle threw for however many yards, 400 yards, 4 touchdowns yesterday. I think that the Patriots are going to be able to limit Seattle's downfield ability. Stephon Gilmore, J.C. Jackson, Devin McCourty, Jason McCourty. I think they're going to have the ability to shut down the majority of those guys. And Seattle's going to have to do some damage with their legs, which maybe they will do. But you got to force them to kind of play outside their comfort zone. They're best probably throwing the ball, obviously, with the arm of Russell Wilson. But if you can make them run the ball and maybe force some fumbles by Chris Carson, capitalize on those turnovers, I think it could easily be a game that goes in the Patriots' favor. And the other big thing is no fans. If this was a game where there were fans in Seattle, I would 100% pick Seattle.
I'd agree.
But there's no fans, so it's really an even playing field. And I think I trust, obviously, Cam Newton in this game more than I trust a guy like Jarrett Stidham. The fact that we have an experienced veteran quarterback who's gone into hostile environments and won before changes it a lot. And if I would give this team a shot with Tom Brady last year, I'd give them a shot with Cam Newton this year. because Tom Brady wasn't at his best last year, and I think we're a much better offense overall, especially with David Andrews back. I think our run game's a lot stronger. And Todd Gurley had a decent game yesterday. So I'm going to go with the Patriots. Call it the upset of the week. I don't care. I don't know if I'd really consider an upset because Seattle's only favored by 3.5. But I'm going with the Patriots.
But before we move on to the last matchup. I hope New England proves me wrong. I'm obviously.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Obviously,
I'm obviously rooting for New England. Like, if there's one game I want to get wrong this week, it's this one. But I just don't want to deal with all the bullshit. If this gets out, oh, you're a fake fan. I don't want to hear that bullshit. I've been with them since I was 7 years old. I mean, there weren't many bad times. You can call me a fucking bandwagon for that, but I stuck with them through it all. I stuck with them. I can't even name any bad times, but we did have our fair share of them. I had to deal with all the bullshit here in New York.
Bad weeks.
I had to deal with a Super Bowl loss to the Giants because I was like too young to get into football in 2007. But I had to deal with that bullshit. I don't want to hear it.
All right. Well, that one took a lot out of me. Pat, I think you're wrong, but I'll save it for another time.
Pat, I think you're
Monday
right.
night.
I hope Pat's right.
Monday night.
Pat's right.
New Orleans Saints at Las Vegas Raiders. The first game at the new Allegiant Stadium
Death Star.
in Vegas. Yeah. Go ahead, Jordan. Take it away.
I don't think this one should spark much debate either, really. I mean, the Saints were just able to beat what some people have as the Super Bowl winners and what many are touting as the NFC Championship. Now, I know, Graham, you won't agree with that, but Saints-Bucks could be the matchup. So for them to come in and beat Tom Brady in Week 1 and beat a pretty good Bucks defense. I don't think it's top of the league, but it's definitely not anything to just kind of ride off about. And to be able to compete with the offense that the Bucks have, there's a lot of weapons on that team. They weren't all utilized last week, and that's one of the gripes that Arians having with Brady and Mike Evans not really being used, but they were able to really outshoot the Bucks. And when you're talking about the Las Vegas Raiders, who are a pretty young team, Josh Jacobs is fantastic, and he's molding into a top running back in this league very quickly. But I still have zero confidence in that receiving core and really in Derek Carr right now. And for them to have to rely really heavily on Jacobs, I don't think it's going to work against the Saints. I think the Saints are too dynamic in their offense for the Raiders to stop. And if the Raiders on offense, all they can do is just run the ball and attempt to just ram it down the Saints' throat. I don't think it's going to work this week. And I think the Raiders are going to get a wake up call and realize that like this is the cream of the crop of the NFC. Like, this is who I have winning the Super Bowl. I have the Saints winning. So like this is who you're going to have to face if you want success in the league. And I think they're going to get absolutely blown out.
See, I think that there's something to be said for the Raiders' performance this past week. I think that Derek Carr had a very good game, given he was playing against Carolina. So do with that what you will. But Josh Jacobs, as you said, he's amazing. I think it's going to be an interesting game. There's a little bit of a potential for an upset by Vegas, simply because they are a very different offense compared to what they faced against Tampa this past week. Tampa is very pass oriented, and it's going to be interesting to see how New Orleans handles an elite running back, because they haven't had to do that this season so far. But still, you can't pick against the Saints. So I've got New Orleans.
Yeah.
Only thing that would make me want to pick the Raiders in this game is if they were playing in the black hole with the fans. That place gets absolutely nuts. But they're not, and I don't really think that would make – I think it would make it a closer game if they were fans. But I think the Saints are going to win this one. Right now, I think they're the Super Bowl favorite. Or I think they're obviously really up there, but they're up there, top tier, one of the best put together teams in the league right now. And the Raiders aren't quite there yet. I think they could be if they pull all the strings right and they get some guys on that defense, give Derek Carr another weapon. They could be up there, but for right now they're not. And this is a year for the Saints.
Well, Jordan said earlier that you got to take some risks if you want to win. And That really inspired me. So for my upset of the week, I'm gonna take the Raiders over the Saints.
Damn.
Not a bad idea. I'll give you
know,
that because I was thinking about taking the Raiders for a little bit in this game.
Yeah. Graham said this will be an interesting game. I think so too. I'm not really too sold on the Saints after last week. I think really that the Buccaneers played poorly compared to what a lot of people were expecting them to. You know, Tom Brady threw 2 picks. He threw a pick 6. Drew Brees didn't play great, and Tampa Bay's defense, at least against the pass, isn't phenomenal. So the fact that Drew Brees kind of struggled against that defense is, you know, a little bit concerning. Obviously, they're still favored. Obviously, they're one of the best rosters in the whole NFL, if not the best. But I can just see them losing a game early on to a team that's kind of middle of the line in the Raiders. I'm feeling Derek Carr. I'm feeling Josh Jacobs. So I'm going with the Raiders.
One thing I want to say before we wrap it up, the thing that I have with the Saints is that, like, their biggest question mark every year is their defense. Like, it's normally like Brees couldn't win the Super Bowl because the defense can't stop the other offense. It's never that Brees isn't necessarily performing. It's always that he can't do everything, you know, that offense can't do everything. To see them pick off Tom Brady twice and really slow him down considerably gives me a lot of confidence that if they can just be a mediocre defense, maybe a little bit above average, that Saints offense can thrive once again. And their win against the Bucs came with Michael Thomas catching like 2 passes for like 20 yards. I mean, he was non-existent in that game, and Alvin Kamara was still able to take over.
And he's hurt now, isn't he?
Yeah, but I don't think he's gonna be out Monday at least. But my thing is that they got 2 elite playmakers on that team and still an elite quarterback, and their defense looked well enough for me to have confidence that they can at least slow down any mediocre team in the league. Because they slowed down, you know, Tom Brady and the Bucs, who are way above average. So, you know, imagine them against the Raiders. That's kind of what my thought process is.
Yeah. It's like I said, I can see this week being a potential upset. Pat, I didn't think anybody would actually go for it, but you know, what would this show be without a little bit of excitement? So
yeah.
That's going to about wrap it up. And Jordan, you have any closing thoughts?
I got nothing. Go Celtics, though.
Yeah, Celtics Heat game 1 is going to start in about an hour. Is it half an hour? Yeah, it's about an hour.
6:30.
Go Nuggets.
Boo.
That's going to be wild.
Pat is anti-NBA.
Huh?
Pat is anti-NBA. We had the discussion last week about what's good for the NBA: a Clippers-Lakers Western Conference Final. So Pat should
What
just.
What has the NBA ever done for me?
That's a very
good question.
They've given me a lot of stress, and I'm all on the Nikola Jokic train.
They've given you this platform to talk about basketball on. If it wasn't for the NBA, that's a lot less content we'd have to create.
True.
Fair enough.
So that's what they've done.
I'm going with the Nuggets tonight. I hope I don't jinx them, but you know, they're the best team maybe ever when they're down 3-1. So I'm feeling it. I really, really, really want it to happen.
Right. I want to mention one thing before we end it. If the Nuggets do come back and Pat is correct, there should be no debate about who the best center in the league is, because Jokic will have come back as the leader Jamal Murray, I guess you can consider, but Jokic will have come back as the best player on the team in 2 3-1 series deficits and been
in one playoff.
In one playoff run and been very, very sufficient in both of those. I think he's averaging like 27 and like 13, and in this series he's averaging like 30 and 13. So I've been on the Jokic train for a while. I know Pat's hopping on now.
I am. He's my best center in the league.
Good. I think he's good. It depends. It's a topic for another episode, though.
Yeah.
Celtics Nuggets final, and that's where we cut it. So when that actually happens, we could go back to this and say, "Oh, he said this before it even happened." So
let's name all the final matchups and then be like, "Well, we did say it."
You heard it here first.
Thanks for listening, guys. I know it's a shit show sometimes, but yeah, we make it work. We'll see y'all next week.
Nah, see you later.